Hi guys, this is Charlie from Ramos Gaming Systems. So originally, this video I wanted to do 7400F delid and to show the results before delid and after delidding and applying like liquid metal in between the die, the CPU die and the heat spreader. But it wasn't as simple as I thought. So this is the delidding tool. It's a great tool. I don't think we need to review it, but you've probably seen demonstrations of this and on Bauer's channel. Basically, it's supposed to fit in, and then you're supposed to fit in the screws that are included, screw them in, screw them here, and then tighten them both ways to loosen the solder on the IHS, which is the heat spreader. And once it's loose enough, you can just like pry it off and things like that, and hopefully it doesn't damage the CPU die underneath it. And this tool is only designed for AM5. I actually do have a separate AM4 tool, but maybe I will do a video on it in some other time. But it wasn't as easy as I thought. So now it seems like, yes, it's able to fit, right? But for those who are a little bit keener, you will notice that my CPU looks a little bit mangled, like there's signs of damage here. That's because I had to do a lot of surgery, quote unquote, air quote surgery on it. So let's try out. So this is my modified Dremel 7400F. This is a 7600X. So it's not brand new, but I put it back into the case, and the tool works pretty easily. You just line up the arrows, right? It will sit inside, and if you land this like red, I think both of them are aluminum, I guess, or stainless steel. I think it's aluminum. You land it on top, it will land right in. You can see that the holes here line up, and the holes here will line up, right? Perfectly flat. But what if I drop a brand new 7400F into it? So here, I have one mangled 7400F lying down there, face down there. I have another brand new 7400F here, and I have a third brand new 7400F. So let's do the same with the 7400F. It should be easy, right? Just drop it in and drop this in. Wait, doesn't match. You see, I can't put it in. This side is in, but one side is not. What if I maybe try and fit it this side? Oh, this side is in, but the other side is not. It's not flush. So what's happening? So try as I might, I couldn't fit it in. So my suspicion was that, could it be that the IHS is of a different size? Can't be, right? They're all official AMD CPUs. And I went ahead and measured it. So let me use a vernier caliper. Do I have it? Yeah, I have it here. Vernier calipers. So the key measurement that we need to know is this. How does this fit? It's still a 7600X, and it fits perfectly flush like this, correct? So how it fits is this gap from the CPU has to match this spacing, and this 4 standoffs, steel standoffs will actually fit into the 4 gaps here. And using this steel standoffs, it will like drag the CPU forward and back, or drag the IHS forward and back while keeping the PCB fixed in place using this notch on the black metal casing. And because of that, you will create torsion, torque, tension. I don't know how you call it, torsion strength, and that will weaken the solder, the indium solder that's actually attaching the IHS to the CPU die. So that was that. So if this doesn't fit, if this gap here doesn't fit the measurement here, the CPU is not going to go in, or the IHS is not going to fit in. So let's do some measurements. 7600X, that fits perfectly. I'm going to measure it. It's a bit hard to see since this is not a digital vernier caliper, but from my eyeball, from my reading, it's 28 millimeters, 28.5. So how you read this is you read the 0 here has to be at the position, so you can see it's 25, 26, 27, 28. but it's halfway, the 0 is halfway between 28 and 29 millimeters. And then you look at the small scale here, the lines here have to match up. So you read the line that matches up to this line below, matches up to the line above. So it's about 5. So it's roughly about 28.5 millimeters. Okay, so that's 28.5 millimeters. And if we take a look at our brand new 7400F, okay, so let's measure it. Okay, so yeah, and if you look at this, it's 25, 26, 27, 28. But note that this time is a little bit more towards the right of 28. It's close to 29. So if you actually read the smaller scale here, I will say it's probably matching on number 8. So it's probably 28.8 millimeters. So from 28.5 millimeters on the 7600X, which matches into the Delidding 2, the 7400F, the IHS, this portion of its IHS is actually 28.8 millimeters. So we have a 0.3 millimeter difference, and that is actually enough for this 7400F to not fit in because of that 0.3 millimeters of difference. So initially I was wondering, wait, how can this happen? They all come from the same factory, right? Maybe. There are actually some differences to it, but because they could be like, this is made in Malaysia, you could see, yeah, both are there made in Malaysia. So 7600X, 7400F, they're both made in Malaysia. But maybe due to differing batches, the IHS tolerances can be slightly different. IHS could be manufactured by a different company and not by the AMD chip assembly factory itself. So the difference is really minuscule. It's like 0.3 millimeters, but the Bauer's tools are so well manufactured that it just fits perfectly if it's 28.5 millimeters. So what I need to do to get it to fit, I had to do some extreme surgery. I had to use a dremelling tool, and yeah, I have to dremel the one side of it. So I actually decided not to dremel this side because there are capacitors here, and I wanted to avoid damaging the capacitors. As you can see, my tool actually wasn't perfect. It went a little bit too low, or it slipped out sometimes, and it actually damaged the PCB. So you can see the copper showing through the PCB. Then my dremeling wasn't perfect as well because it is a round tool, it is uneven, but I've dremeled it enough that it now fits, not perfectly flush, somewhat flush. It now fits into it, into the tool. Yeah, it's still not perfectly flush. I think we can still see that there's some gap here, so I can still dremel it some more. Yeah, it's not perfectly flush, and yeah, that is that. But I kind of want to test the CPU and see whether it still boots after this dremeling, because I actually did a fair bit of damage to it other than just the IHS. This is just thermal paste, but you can see that the bottom of the pads are no longer the same as a brand new CPU, because I was originally dremeling on the table. I was dremeling by holding the CPU on this table, and CPU pads on. Later I used this piece of paper, but there's still abrasion, and I think some of the pads have some of the copper or the gold on the pads have worn out a fair bit. So this might have affected the operation of the CPU. So guys, if you're trying to delete a 7400F, do not do this at home. Yeah, you can risk completely destroying your precious CPU that you just spent like 250 Singapore dollars on. So yeah, that's that. So seems like CPU still works, even though I've mangled the IHS somewhat. It is on its last phases of the Cinebench 2024 benchmark, and we can see that it is working as per normal. Like the maximum temps are hitting like 90 on the CPU die. CPU CCD1, I think, which is the fastest CCD, the one with the highest frequency, has hit a maximum of 92.4. Okay, so we have that. So maybe let me screw in and we'll tension it up. Okay, it's not too difficult. Then we will loosen it on this side. Then tension on the other side. So I now I see why this is important, because we do flip the two around frequently when we're deliding. Then tension on this side. Okay, it's not so bad. So the 7400F actually doesn't have Indian solder, maybe just glue. Oh, it just feels really loose. Okay. No, yeah, it feels really loose. There's no tension at all. Is it really loose? Oh, so it drops out? Yep, so it just drops out easily. It's a pretty easy deleting process. Just like what reports have said, this looks like just dried thermal paste, and this is just some simple glue. So a simple twist was actually all we need to delete it. So I think we didn't even need the tool. Maybe we could use a pair of pliers and just twist, and it should come off. Yep. Yeah, maybe we didn't need this tool at all. Maybe I didn't need to do so much dremelling. Let's just clean this up. I think we need to scrape off the glue, and maybe I'll just use nail polish, nail varnish later. Let's just clean this off. So like for the CPU die, this small amount of liquid metal is probably enough. Like this is how little amount of liquid metal we should have. I would still think this might be a little bit too much, but let's spread it out and try. So I'm gonna leave it as it is just to test it out first. Like, you can see that it moves around, but it doesn't detach. Like, I can feel some tension when I'm trying to pull the IHS off, and I assume that's the surface tension of the liquid metal on the IHS matching up with the surface tension of the liquid metal on the CPU die. So just gonna leave it as it is and see the results first. But obviously, if you are doing, for your own use, maybe you might want to use like super glue on the corners, so that then you try and secure the IHS to the PCB and so on. But it is what it is. So let's give it a test.
Now we're at the part where we talk about the results. So I've actually compiled a graph here. So while I was testing, I've took screenshots of HW info as well as the Cinebench scores, and this is the compiled result. So this is 7400F stock, no OC. That means that is stock ratings and all that, and it's lower. Like the base clocks, everything is set as default. So in CPU CCD max temps, that means the highest temps that the CPU reach, it hit a maximum of 93.4 degrees. Cinebench score was 745. So then let's talk about before we delete, right? So I did a little bit of OC with Ryzen Master, and we managed to OC using the Auto OC tool. So it's just boosted by about 150 megahertz. Pretty modest increase. I think there's no increase to voltage. So OC to 4,850 megahertz. By the way, the default I think is 4,007, 4.7. Yep. So default max boost clock of 7400F is only capped to 4,700 megahertz. So this is only 150 megahertz boost. And yeah, so for this 150 megahertz boost, we maintain a maximum temps. That means this seems like a temperature ceiling of 93.4. The score increased somewhat. Cinebench multi-core score increased to 804, and this was before delidding. So after delidding, you can see that the results actually improve immensely in terms of temperature, not really in terms of Cinebench score. So after deleting, we managed the max temp of the CPU CCD during a 10-minute Cinebench 2024 run was only at 63.9 degrees. So let's round it up to 70 degrees. So 70 degrees versus 93.4. So that's a reduction of 23 degrees Celsius, which is quite a lot. So yeah, just 23 degrees just from deleting it and just applying a little bit of liquid metal. Take note that the IHS was not changed. It's still the same copper IHS. We didn't do any other mods other than just applying liquid metal between the IHS and the CPU die, and we could get net 23 degrees improvement in terms of lowering the temps. In terms of Cinebench score, 762, I would say is margin for error. It's about, so we just take it as about the same score, because sometimes if you run Cinebench several times, you can get slightly different scores. Like the scores can range between like 30 to 50 and so on. So a little bit, sometimes it's not that reliable for Cinebench. Anyway, so what if, since now we have a lot more thermal headroom, what if we do some overclocking? So the deleted one with liquid metal, if you overclock to 4850 megahertz, max temps actually rise up to 80 degrees. So a 10 degrees increase in max temps after the OC. Cinebench score was still lower than the one before deleting. So like I mentioned, the Cinebench, by right, the Cinebench score should have been either the same, but I don't know why the Cinebench scores was actually lower, and it's even lower than before the OC. So after OSing, actually the Cinebench scores actually dropped down. So I couldn't really explain this, but I ran the test again and I got even lower Cinebench scores. So I'm not too sure. Probably something to do on the back end of software side or in Windows. It's really lowering the score. So that is that. So I decided to just crank it up some more. So when I tried to use Ryzen Master to crank it up to 5000 megahertz max frequency, it actually has a warning message that asked me if I wanted to increase the voltage. So the default voltage, if I'm not wrong, is 1.11 something. Yeah, volts. So then I tried, how about I just increase it to all the way to 1.3. So I increased it to 1.3, just YOLO'd it and did the test at 5000 megahertz. So 5000 megahertz was stable for a 10-minute Cinebench benchmark run. Max temps hit 84.4. So you can see actually the increase in temperature, max temperature actually is not a lot. Just from 4850 to 5000, and even an increase about 0.2 in terms of volts, just only netted about a 5 degrees increase in max temps. But the score did improve significantly from 756. Now we increased to 820. So take note that this is beating the score from when it was at 4850, which makes sense because the frequency is higher. So it is rendering the Cinebench run a little bit faster. So it gave a slightly higher score because it's at 5000 megahertz. Then next I just YOLO'd it. So I checked that the 7600X, which is the 6-core 12-thread, the original 6-core 12-thread CPU released by AMD, because the 7400F is somewhat the downbin or gimped version that is severely downclocked to 4.7 gigahertz. But 5.3 gigahertz was actually the max boost clock stated to be on the 7600X. So I tried. So can we bring the 7400F all the way to the performance levels of a 7600X? So I OC'd it to 5300 megahertz. Still maintain the 1.3 volt because I was just lazy to adjust the voltage. Since we're at thermal headroom anyway, we're not hitting 90 degrees, and yet we still did not hit 90 degrees. So temperature increased again by about 2 to 3 degrees on the CCD max temp. So we hit a maximum of 87.2 degrees Celsius, and Cinebench score improved again to 864 because it's again 300 megahertz higher than our previous run. So in this case, I haven't, I do own a 7600X CPU, so perhaps I'll run some benchmarks to compare with a 7600X at stock settings to see if this our Delidded overclocked 7400F can actually achieve the same performance as a more expensive stock 7600X. So if it's so, then technically it's a way for people to save money. They can buy a 7400F, delid it, apply liquid metal, and do some manual overclocking on Ryzen Master, and technically they are getting the exact same performance as a 7600X. So it is technically the same CPU, just downbin silicon.